Nutrition science and everyday application. Understanding food labels. Not so long ago, food choices were limited to what could be grown or raised, hunted, or gathered. Today, grocery stores offer seemingly infinite choices in foods, with entire aisles dedicated to breakfast cereals and cases filled with a multitude of different yogurts. Faced with so many choices, how can we decide? Taste matters, of course, but if a healthy diet is your goal, so does nutrition. Food labels are our window into the nutritional value of a given food. Let's examine what we can learn from food labels and how reading them can help us make smart choices to contribute to a healthy diet. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, requires food manufacturers to accurately label foods so that consumers can be informed about their contents. There are 5 types of information required by the FDA on every food label, except for fresh produce and seafood. 1, a statement of identity, as what type of food is it? 2 is the net contents of the package, how much is in there. 3 is the name and address of the manufacturer, where was it produced. 4 is an ingredients list, what ingredients are included in the food. 5 is nutrition information, what is the amounts of nutrients included in a serving of food. The statement of identity and net contents of the package tell you what type of food you're purchasing and how much is in the package. The name and address of the manufacturer are important if there's a food recall due to an outbreak of foodborne illness or other contamination issue. Given the size of our food system and the fact that one manufacturer may make products packaged under multiple brand names, being able to trace a food's origin is critical. The last 2 types of required information, the ingredients list and the nutrition information, are a bit more complex and provide valuable information to consumers. So let's look more closely at each of these parts of a food label. Ingredients list. The ingredients list includes all ingredients listed from most predominant to least predominant by weight in the product. For example, in the corn muffin mix label to the right, the most prevalent ingredient is enriched unbleached flour, with ingredients in the flour then listed in parentheses, followed by sugar, cornmeal, salt, and then a few other ingredients. This order of ingredients comes in handy when judging the nutritional value of a product. For example, in the ingredients list for the corn muffin mix shown at right, it's interesting to note that it contains more sugar than cornmeal. The ingredients list can also help you determine whether a bread contains more whole grain flour than refined flour. Or if you're choosing a breakfast cereal, if the first ingredient is sugar, then that's a red flag and it's more of a dessert than part of a nutritious breakfast. By law, food manufacturers must also list major allergens, which include milk, egg, fish, crustacean, shellfish, tree nuts, wheat, peanuts, and soybeans. Allergens may be listed in a separate statement as on the corn muffin mix label, which list contains wheat on the label. Alternatively, allergens can be listed in parentheses within the ingredient list, such as lecithin or soy. Some labels include an optional may contain or made in shared equipment with statement that lists additional allergens that could be present, not as ingredients in the food, but in trace amounts from equipment contamination. For people with food allergies, having this information clearly and accurately displayed on food packages is vital for their safety. The Nutrition Facts Panel. If you want to learn about the nutritional value of a food, The Nutrition Facts panel is where you'll find this information. It's very useful for comparing products and for identifying foods that will be more or less valuable in meeting your nutritional goals. For example, if you're trying to watch your intake of added sugar or saturated fat, or you're trying to incorporate more dietary sources of calcium and vitamin D, the Nutrition Facts panel is a valuable tool. There are 4 main parts of a Nutrition Facts panel shown in the figure below. The 4 main sections of a Nutrition Facts label. 1 is serving size information. It's fitting that serving size information is first on the Nutrition Facts panel because all of the information that follows is based on it. The serving size of the food is the amount that is customarily eaten at one time, and all of the nutrition information on the label is based on 1 serving of the food. This section of the label also states the number of servings per container. It's important to note that you might not always eat 1 serving of a food. Sometimes you might eat half of a serving, and sometimes you might eat 2 or more servings at one sitting. For example, if the label above is for a breakfast cereal, you might easily consume 1 1/3 cups of cereal for breakfast. If you're interested in how many calories or nutrients you're consuming, you would need to double the nutrition values to accurately represent your breakfast, since the serving size is only 2/3 of a cup. 2 is calorie information. This section simply states the number of calories or the amount of energy provided in 1 serving of the food. Again, if you consume more or less than the serving size, you'll need to take that into consideration when estimating the calories you're consuming. 3 is nutrient amounts. The Nutrition Facts panel must list the amounts of these nutrients: total fat, saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, sodium, total carbohydrate, dietary fibers, sugars, added sugars, protein, calcium, vitamin D, iron, and potassium. Manufacturers may also choose to add several other optional nutrients or nutritional information. Calories from saturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, monounsaturated fat, soluble and insoluble fiber, sugar alcohol, other carbohydrates, and other minerals and vitamins. 4 is percent daily values. The daily value, or DV, is an approximate recommendation for daily intake for a nutrient developed by the FDA for use on food labels so that consumers can see how much of a nutrient is provided by a serving of a food relative to about how much they need each day. The daily value is similar to the RDA or AI, except that because it is used on food labels, it needs to be a simplified recommendation with just 1 value rather than several for different age groups and sex, as found in the DRI. Most DVs are based on amounts for people aged 4 years through adult, though there are DVs established for infants, toddlers, and pregnant and lactating women. And you'll see those used on food products specifically developed for those groups. Most of the time, the DV for a nutrient is the highest RDA or AI for the group it's intended for. The value printed on the Nutrition Facts panel is the percent DV, which tells you how much 1 serving of the food contributes towards meeting the daily requirement for that nutrient. The FDA uses the following definitions for interpreting the percent DV on food labels. 5% DV or less means the food is low in a nutrient. 10% to 19% daily values means the food is a good source of a nutrient. 20% daily value or greater means the food is high in a nutrient. The daily value is not as precise as the recommended daily allowances, so while the percent DV is useful for comparing food products or making quick judgments about the nutritional value of a food, it's better to use the RDA if you're looking for your individual nutrient requirements. Putting the nutrition facts panel to work for you. How you use the nutritional facts on food labels depends on your dietary goals. If you're trying to reduce your saturated fat intake, you'll want to pay close attention to the percent DVs for saturated fat and try to choose foods with less than 5% DV for saturated fat. If you're watching your caloric intake, you'll want to pay attention to the calorie information. Regardless, always start by checking the serving size and comparing it to the amount you usually consume. As an example of smart label reading, take a look at the two soup labels below. First, think about how much soup you would usually consume. There are 2 servings per can, but would you eat the entire can or just half of it? Many people would eat the whole can, and if that's you, you would want to double all of the calorie and nutrient information. Both soups provide 160 calories per 1 cup serving, or 320 calories for the entire can.